Recent data suggested that economic and financial conditions are now stabilizing in some of the major industrial economies. The Union economies are expected to experience a slow recovery from the global downturn. And with the significant reliance on tourism receipts, remittances, and foreign direct investment flows or inflows, the pace of recovery will depend heavily on a turnaround in employment and consumption, particularly in the USA, where it is expected to lag behind the rest of the economy. Accordingly, economic activity in the currency union is projected to decline further by a mere insignificant figure by 2010. Looking at monetary and credit conditions, the Council noted the impact of the downturn on the monetary and credit aggregates in the Union, and in particular noted the following: a declining trend in credit growth, which is consistent with the contraction in economic activity over the period under review. Also, declines in commercial bank nominal lending rates, but noted increases in the real rates attributable to the low rate of inflation, which was observed at the currency union level during the period. And thirdly, a relatively strong central bank net foreign asset position, which again was consistent with the requirements for maintaining the currency peg, although a slight decline in the backing ratio was observed. We also looked at monetary policy assessment, and we agreed that in the current environment of declining tourism-related and foreign direct investment inflows, low liquidity levels, and the lack of fiscal space on the part of member governments, the key policy imperative is to protect the stability of the financial system and, of course, maintain credibility of the currency to support the economic recovery whenever it starts. Council accordingly then directed that the central bank's administered interest rates be maintained at their current levels, namely 1, that the central bank's discount rate remains at 6.5%, and secondly, the minimum rate of interest on saving deposits should remain at 3%. We also looked at financial sector stability, and we did this against the backdrop of recognizing the current risk to the stability of the currency union financial system, including the ongoing challenges that are being faced in the insurance sector. And so, Council recommended the following. In fact, recommended that member governments should enhance the ability of the bank to provide liquidity support to the commercial banks experiencing a tightening of liquidity. We also, of course, conceptualized and advise that we implement fiscal and debt sustainable targets in order to support the financial sector stability, which we said was critically important for us at this time. What about economic growth and transformation? The Council noted that sustained economic growth at a level higher than that achieved in the recent past was absolutely necessary in order to deal with the vulnerabilities to external shocks and domestic developments. in order to absorb the unemployed and new entrants to the labor force and reduce the level of poverty and maintain the human development indices, which are relatively high for us as we have experienced over the last few years. And so Council, recognizing that the dynamic and growth-oriented private sector was critical to the economic recovery and transformation of the currency union member countries, the Council agreed to recommend to member governments to support continuing for the work that is being done for the Central Bank in very close association with the OECD Secretariat and in particular the Export Development Unit in order to do the following. 1. To create an enabling business environment. 2. To facilitate private sector and entrepreneurial development. 3. Identify and support productive sector activities which have both a comparative and competitive advantage in the export market. 4. Encourage governments to accelerate the provision of business facilitatory institutions and instruments such as bureaus of standards, technical and business skills training, and the appropriate fiscal and other incentives. And fifthly, facilitate and accelerate the rationalization of the development and investment financial architecture in order to improve access to finance for new and for existing enterprises. We also looked at the reports from the various ministerial subcommittees of the Monetary Council that were established some time ago. In this regard, we received reports with respect to the insurance situation as it is unfolding and as we grapple with the challenges that we have been facing in this particular sector. We also looked at the report on cooperatives, and also we looked at the report on the offshore sector. The offshore sector in particular is of concern to us because recently you would have recognized that we've had some difficulties with regard to France, and so we spent some time discussing strategies beyond today. We also looked at the enhanced regulatory framework, and in particular we updated ourselves on the following. Firstly, that the Central Bank continues to facilitate upgrades to the various pieces of legislation that govern the different classes of finance.